Welcome to Arc English. So we shall start today the non-detailed part of our syllabus. You see, non-detailed meaning thereby it is not detailed. We will read but not in detail. So what is the meaning of this then? You see, this book will equip us to understand only in one reading. Because the board tries to acquaint with the reading part. That is why we just have a peripheral stories of the stories. Because they are stories, they are sequential, they will not divert your mind. You can read them at a stretch. But as we are not acquainted with our reading part in our past days, meaning thereby in our 10th standard, we will have to go in detail even though they are stories. Why? Because if we read them in detail, we can come across by some words, some pairs of words, some phrases, some idioms, and most important is that the kind of sentences and expressions we can learn from these paragraphs. That is why we should go in detail with them. You can be more conversational if you read books, if you read stories. It is very common. What you practice more, you will learn that. How you program your mind, it will act accordingly. So if you want to speak, if you have an enthusiasm to speak, so you will have to read. Read more and more. That is interesting to you. At this tender age, the board has given some stories to you to read so that you can be more conversational and can be more communicative both in writing and speaking. So let us read The Doctor's Word. It's a beautiful story by R.K. Narayan. R.K. Narayan is a very popular story writer and novelist. He is basically known for his humor, for his sensation in his stories. So you see, Rashipuram Krishna Swami Iyer, Narayana Swami. He was born in 1906 and dies in 2001. He is an Indian English novelist and short story writer. His narratives highlight social context and provide a feel for his characters. I have already told you that he portrays the characters very lively in his stories. You will never feel just like reading them. Rather, you could visualize the personalities before you in your mind. And that is the most fascinating part of his storytelling. He has brought out the humor and energy in ordinary life and displayed compassionate humanism in his fiction. Fiction means stories, fact, vastavata, fiction, kalpanika. The stories are always imaginary. That's why the stories are also in otherwise called fictions. He has created a fictional town called Malgudi that stood for reality. You must have watched Malgudi Days either in Doordarshan or in Star Plus. And you see, Malgudi is a kind of imaginary village. He has taken some characters there and made stories. And the characters become so real. It is the daily characters around us that we come in contact with them. So he was very popular for his Malgudi Days. So you see, in unit 1, when we warm up, what is written, you see, a doctor saves lives both with his skill and more with his words. The very first line confuses us. Why? Because whenever we choose a doctor, first of all, we see of his competency. But here, our mind stands with an obstruction that the author provides. He says that whether competency of a doctor is more important or his soft spoken words. Which one you require actually? Suppose one is not competent but having soft spoken or and very familiar with the patients. Could you go to him for an operation, or you require competency in the doctor? He may be rude in his attitude, in his behavior, and he may be straightforward. He is not soft spoken. So, what is your choice? So, you see, here we are in a dilemma whether to choose a competent doctor or of a soft spoken, or a doctor having soft spoken words. So, read the unit of the story and we shall clarify the doubts here. Soothing words of a doctor work miraculously. The author here also speaks of that soothing words. Soothing words means comfort lies. We know that it is a lie, but it will soothe our mind. It gives comfort to our mind. We have already read My Greatest Olympic Prize. When Luz Long spoke to Jess Twins that you could complete your first trial with your eyes closed. So this is definitely a comforting line that Luz Long spoke, but it definitely relaxed Jess Twins. So sometimes we want that somebody would tell me a lie and I am going to believe it. That is why soothing words. That is soothing words. So soothing words of a doctor work miraculously. Suppose a patient is in a critical condition and he knows that he will die in a few minutes. If the doctor says him that he is going to live, he will not die. Nothing will happen to you. He will live, believe me. If this much is spoken even to a patient, his living aspiration will be raised. He will get some kind of confidence. If the doctor says that I am going to live, it must be true. He is going to believe on the fact what the doctor speaks to him. Right? So you see, so soothing words of a doctor work miraculously for a patient even in a critical condition. Let us read the story and see if human life hangs on a doctor's word. Read the following unit of the story and acquaint yourself with the character of Dr. Raman. You see page 20. Open your page. Part 2, text 2, right? Invitation to 1, 2, the text. People came to him when the patient was on his last legs. Dr. Raman often burst out, "Why couldn't you have come a day earlier?" The reason was obvious, visiting fee 25 rupees. And more than that, people liked to sit the fact that the time had come to call in Dr. Raman. For them, there was something ominous in the very association. As a result, When the big man came on the scene, it was always a quick decision, one way or another. There was no scope of time for any kind of wavering or whitewashing. Long years of practice of this kind had bred in the doctor a certain cut truthfulness. For that every reason, his opinion was valued. He was not a mere doctor expressing an opinion, but a judge pronouncing a verdict. The patient's life hung on his words. This never unduly worried Dr. Raman. He never believed that agreeable words ever saved life. He did not think it was any of his business to provide unnecessary dope when, as a matter of course, nature would tell them the truth in a few hours. However, when he glimpsed the faintest sign of hope, he rolled up his sleeve and stepped into the arena. It might be hours or days, but he never withdrew till he wrested the prize from Yama's hands. The most interesting part of the paragraphs are they are very short sentences. You see how comfortably we can read and understand them. Sometimes tough words may come, but you could understand just by relating to other words there existed. So first of all, the sentences are short, meaning thereby they are almost written in one sentence, one content style. And as such, you know that he is an Indian writer. I have already told you that Indian writers are Indian, we can understand better to the Indian writers because they are almost converted into our feelings, our language feelings. So you see, people came to him when the patient was on his last legs. On his last legs, माने on one's last breath. ଓଡ଼ିଆରେ ଆମେ କହୁଛେ ନା ସମୟର ଅପରାହ୍ନରେ ବୟସର ଅପରାହ୍ନରେ କହିଲେ almost he is growing old. ठीक सेमती इंग्लिश रे कहबा on his last legs, right? On his last legs meaning thereby on his last, about to die. When the patient came to him when the patient was on his last legs, meaning thereby the patient visited to the doctors when they are about to die. See, there is a typical situation we Indians have. What we do? First we try. We become all the attendants of the patient become the doctor and prescribe medicines to him and tries the formula that they know throughout their experience of life. So they tried to cure the patient. And when it is beyond their reach, they come to the doctor. By the time the patient was almost on his last breath, almost about to die. So people came to him. People came to the doctor when the patient was in a very critical condition. Dr. Raman often burst out. It is very natural. If I have the capacity to cure a patient, but if he comes beyond my reach, it comes to me in a stage which is beyond my reach, ultimately I will feel irritated. Right? So Dr. Raman often burst out. Burst out means चित्कार करिया, रागी के चित्कार करिया, because it was within his reach, but the attendants never allowed him to treat his patients at the right time. ठीक समय रे न आसी मरी जीवा समय रे आसुतले तांको हातरू खसी गेला परे डॉक्टर पाखु आसुतले. You see, why couldn't you have come a day earlier. तो कहते कौन ना तुम आ गोटे दिन आसपारानी. So normally this is the sentiment of a doctor. They will always say you आपन केते दिन है 5 दिन है ज्वर है आपन टिके आगुरु आसपारानी. And the attendants are mum. They cannot reply. Why? Because they become the doctors. से माने निजो को डॉक्टर भाबिगिरी ताकू ट्रीटमेंट कर चलथिबे जेतले निजो हाथरु खसिला सेतले आसीबे. So ultimately a doctor will have irritation seeing those attendants and patients. The reason was obvious. Visiting fee 25 rupees. It was a remote village and the doctor was a village doctor. So the reason was obvious. Obvious means evident, clear. स्पष्ट थिला. कौन स्पष्ट थिला? The fee was 25 rupees. Then 25 rupees is a very exorbitant amount. You see? So the reason the fee was 25. Why should one pay 25 rupees? Our nature is to go to a medical store and take any medicine that we know them. But we rarely visit to a doctor because the fee is always exorbitant, number one. Number two, that you will have to stand in a queue to meet the doctor. We feel that it is all time waste. We cannot wait 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours for some medicines. This is also one of our sentiments that we do not want to visit the doctor. Main thing is that we will have to pay them a high price. So, and more than that, people like to shirk the fact that the time had come to call in Dr. Raman. To shirk the fact. To shirk the fact means to hide the fact. Tathya lucheva, right? Reveal, conceal. To conceal. Then more than that, people like to shirk the fact that the time had come to call in Dr. Raman. एटा केबे डॉक्टर को कहू नथिले जे मरी जीवा समय आसिला तो नहीं आसिलो काले आपन हाथ रे बंची जीव. राइट. तो डॉक्टर्स कैनॉट doctor are not able to give a life. They only treat, and they should be on the right time. And the time exceeds, the doctor hands are locked. He is not able to do anything for the patient. That is why most of the doctors are irritated when the patient comes late. So you see, as a result, and for them there was something ominous in the very association. Ominous means inauspicious or shubha. ସେମାନେ ଭାବନ୍ତି ଡକ୍ଟରଙ୍କ ପାଖକୁ ଯିବାଟା ଗୋଟେ ଅଶୁଭ ଜିନିଷ. ଡକ୍ଟରଙ୍କ ପାଖକୁ ଯଦି ଆମେ ଯାଉଛୁ ମାନେ ପେସେଣ୍ଟ ମରିବା ସମୟରେ ଯାଉଛେ ଆମେ. ତେଣୁ ଏଇସବୁ କାରଣରୁ ମାନେ there are two reasons behind this. Number one is that the fee is high. Number two is that they always feel if the patient is about to die, only he should visit the doctor. Otherwise, we are all here to make him cure. As a result, when the big man came on the scene, it was always a quick decision one way or another. As a result, when the big man means doctor, right? Here it refers to the doctor, right? It is portrayed as a great person. The doctor's personality is definitely great in our society. So when the big man came on the scene, when he comes to the fore, it was always a quick decision. Always a quick decision. The doctor is not able to wait even a second. Cannot wait even a second. He has to take a quick decision because the patient is already in a critical situation, meaning thereby he is about to die. If there is no second left to the doctor to decide. That's why he is always quick at his decision. There was no scope or time for any kind of wavering or whitewashing. Waver means indecision. You see, there was no scope or time for any kind. ଆଉ କୌଣସି ପ୍ରକାର ସୁଯୋଗ ନଥିଲା ପେସେଣ୍ଟକୁ ଦେଖିବା ଆସିଲେ ଡାଇରେକ୍ଟ ଟ୍ରିଟମେଣ୍ଟ କରିବାକୁ ପଡ଼ିବ ତ no scope or time for any kind of wavering. So there is no time for any kind of talk or any kind of decision that he should take. Number one. Number two, that whitewashing. Whitewashing means trying to hide the truth, even though the doctor knows that the patient's eyelid is not moving, and the patient's almost breathes less, and he is about to die. But the doctor cannot make a lie to them. It is not the time that to speak a lie. So this is why to have whitewashing. Whitewashing means hiding the truth. Long years of practice of this kind had bred in the doctor. Long years of practice meaning thereby he had interaction with these villagers who always tells a lie and who always comes to him at the time of a critical juncture for the patient. For that very reason his opinion was valued. Long years of practice of this kind had bred in the doctor a certain cut truthfulness. You see, cut means short, sharp. So during the interaction of the villagers, he could know this is the nature of our villagers. Normally they hide the fact and they represent the things in a different way, but the doctor could know these people are always lying. These people, when they come, the patient is almost beyond their reach, and they feel that it is inauspicious to come to the doctor. Doctor पाखु जीवाटा गोटे अशुभ, कारण मरला लोक ही डॉक्टर पाखु जाए. दिस इज द विलेज सेंटिमेंट. ये मरिया को थी से डॉक्टर पाखु जीव, डॉक्टर पाखु गला माने से मरियो. So this is the sentiment that they always put in their mind. So for that very reason his opinion was valued. He was not a mere doctor expressing an opinion, but a judge pronouncing a verdict. You see, this is very humorical. You see, so he was not a mere doctor. केवल मात्र doctor से नथिले expressing an opinion, जे कौन से मत दे देबे, rather but a judge pronouncing a verdict. कारण निष्पत्ति है साथिला, already it is a decided fact. When the patient comes to him, he is almost in a critical, he is almost on the verge of death. So thereby he could not waste even a second. He will have to take a decision instantaneously. So the author speaks here that it is not mere words expressing, rather it is a judge pronouncing a verdict. So तेमती विचारपति तांकर मत दौचंदे फाइनल verdict से फाइनलाइज करिया पड़थला. There is no time to left for a discussion. कौन सी निष्पत्ति नेबा सीधा से निष्पत्ति नौथिले, कौन सी डिस्कशन करि पार नथिले, because there is no time left for the patient for any kind of discussion. Normally the doctor takes the brief history of the patient, of his past 15 days or 10 days or past 1 month, but there is no time left to him that he could discuss with the patients, attendants, and try to find out the reasons of his illness. There is no time left. The patient's life hung on his words. So ultimately the attendants had to believe the doctor's words. This never unduly worried Dr. Raman. Unduly means अजथा. So initially he would have been worried, but when he comes, his long time labor, his long time practice of this kind had bred in the doctor not to be worried, because these people will always come in the end time. Acha, you see. He never believed that agreeable words ever saved life. And one of the characteristics that the doctor had was that he is not, he cannot make any soothing words. He's a very straightforward character. Whatever is truth, he would tell that. So agreeable words ever saved life. He never believed that agreeable, that can, if he tells a lie, the patient can survive. He never believed in the kind of words. Normally, many doctors use soothing words, soft spoken. It is one of the good characteristics in a doctor. But this doctor is very different to that. He is very straightforward. Whatever is truth, he should say that. Why? Because, you see, he did not think it was any of his business to provide unnecessary dope when, as a matter of course, nature would tell them the truth in a few hours. He did not think, se kebe bhabu nothile, it was any of his business, that tanko duty. Se kebe bhabu nothile, ita tanko kartabya, lokonko भुआ बुलेवा बा जा कुआ होची टू प्रोवाइड अननेसेसरी डोप मिछ कहि ठकी गिरी डोप माने ठकिया पिले ठकी गिरी लोकन को कहबा तांकर चरित्र भितरे नथिला व्हेन एज अ मैटर ऑफ कोर्स नेचर वुड टेल देम जदि भी से कहबे अल्टीमेटली आफ्टर 1 or 2 hours it will be cut hold. However, when he glimpsed the faintest sign of hope, he rolled up his sleeve and stepped into the arena. You see, because if he speaks lies, ultimately nature will tell him, आ घंटे पर लोकटा मरीज लोकों को विश्वास करो ना डॉक्टर कहले बंचे देवी मारदेले तो दिस विल बी द प्रेडिक्शन ऑफ द villagers. That's why he is always straightforward to speak the truth. So you see, however when he glimpsed the faintest sign, जेतोले सी आशार किरण किछि मात्रा रे भी देखुथिले that the patient might survive. So what he did, he rolled up his sleeve. You see, through body language, here are some expressions made. He rolled up his sleeve. से संगे संगे निजर कौन करथले जो हातर स्लीव ताको गोडे दोथले meaning thereby he is set to work now and stepped into the arena एवं ऑपरेशन कक्ष भीतर को पळे आस्तले राइट इट माइट बी आवर्स और डेज वी तो किछि घंटार परिश्रम होई पारे बा दिन परिश्रम होई पारे बट he never withdrew till he wrested the prize from Yama's hands. He left no stone unturned to cure the patient. If he slightly knew that the patient would survive if he could give his service to him, he left no stone unturned. If he feels that the patient will die, nothing can be done. But he feels if the patient might live, so he left no stone unturned to cure him. This is the first unit. Let us come to the second unit. So in the warming up, does the illness of a person dear to your heart upset you? Can you guess how a doctor feels for his ailing friend? Read the following unit of the text and note how Dr. Raman feels when he finds his bosom friend in a critical condition. You see, we shall now clear up a very continuous question that is raised during the time of reading this chapter. Whether the doctor has to be competent, you should bear that in your mind always till we end up the story. Number one, whether you want a doctor competent or you want a doctor telling you soothing lies. That will give you comfort. Which one is more important? You see, in the first stanza, both have spoken. Number one is that yes, the doctor has to be competent. Otherwise, how can an operation be made, or how can a proper diagnosis is made, be made? But next thing is that definitely we go for an attitude of the doctor. A doctor is the kind of person who treats you motherly, giving all his love to you. So it is very important to treat the patients with familiar love. So, does the illness of a person dear to your heart upset you? Have you ever upset if your friend is ill, if your kith and kins are ill? Definitely, it's a common thing, right? We are all human and we are all social. Even in the beast, even in the beasts, uh, feel sorrow for their kith and kins when they are ill. Can you guess how a doctor feels for his ailing friend? Now you will have to guess if the doctor is an introvert personality who only behaves his patients rudely, or he is even rude to his friend. Whether he has a dual character or one character. Read the following unit of the text and note how Dr. Raman feels when he finds his bosom friend. Bosom means intimate, or tinijara, very familiar friend in a critical condition. Today, standing over a bed, the doctor felt that he himself needed someone to tell him soothing lies. You see, today is a very different day for the doctor. The unit 1 speaks of his character, that he is somewhat irritating when the patients come to him at a last stage. And why was irritating? I am just advocating from the doctor side, because he doesn't have any time to treat. That's why he feels sad and he outburst with anger. And why couldn't have you come a day earlier? Because if he had a scope, he could have made the patient alive. Sometimes the patient dies. And sometimes if the doctor felt that he could survive the patient, he left no stone unturned till his recovery. But you see, whether he is having a dual character or one character. So today standing, it is a very different day today. The doctor felt that he himself needed someone to tell him soothing lies. The doctor is now an attendant to his bosom friend. As an attendant, he always wanted that the doctor, anyone, should tell him soothing lies. Soothing lies means that gives you comfort. You know that it is a lie, but it gives you comfort. Suppose you have come over +2 examination and you are an 80% student but secured only 72%. Your neighbor told you that, but I'm astonished. You could have secured more than 80% the way you worked hard for your studies. Definitely, this will give you solace. This will give you some kind of this will give you some kind of relaxation. Even though you know that it is a lie, then your neighbor is speaking to you. So, he mopped his brow with his kerchief and sat down in the chair beside the bed. Mop मोप माने पिले पोछिबा आमे कहूँ ना मोप झाड़ू पोछा मारिया ताकू भी मोप कह जाए मोप माने पोछिबा तो मोप्ड हिज ब्रो विथ हिज कर्चिफ कपाल को से पोछि आनले झाड़ रही कर्चिफ रे हैंड कर्चिफ रे पोछि आनले एंड सेट डाउन इन द चेयर बिसाइड द बेड एंड सेट डाउन बिसाइड बाय द साइड ऑफ द बेड खटियार साइड रे चेयर पड़थिला बसी पड़ले ऑन द बेड ले हिज डियरेस्ट फ्रेंड इन द वर्ल्ड ऑन द बेड सेजरे किए सोईथिले ना ले हिज डियरेस्ट ले माने लाइंग डाउन इन द बेड स्ट्रेट हिज डियरेस्ट फ्रेंड इन द वर्ल्ड पड़ी रही राइट ले माने पड़ी रहा पे तो यू सी इन द वर्ल्ड गोपाल दे हैड नोन each other his friend Gopal so Gopal was his bosom friend right they had known each other for 40 years now meaning thereby they are childhood friends starting with their kindergarten days kindergarten means preschool days ଯେତେବେଳେ ସ୍କୁଲ ଯାଇ ନଥିଲେ ସେତେବେଳଠୁ ସେମାନଙ୍କର ବନ୍ଧୁତ୍ୱ ଆରମ୍ଭ ହୋଇଥିଲା ମାନେ ପିଲାଦିନ ଦୁହେଁ ସାଙ୍ଗ ବା ପିଲାଦିନର ସାଙ୍ଗ ଥିଲେ they could not of course meet as much as they wanted each being wrapped in his own family and profession and they could not of course meet as much as they wanted ସେମାନେ ଯେତିକି ଚାହୁଁଥିଲେ you see friendship is the kind of a relationship which is totally different from other relationship किथन किन रिलेशनशिप अलग फ्रेंडशिप इज डिफरेंट फ्रेंडशिप रे कोन ना जणे अन्य जण सबोले चाहे पाया पाए कथा बा पाए चाहे बट दे बोथ आर wrapped in their own family निज निजर परिवार भितरे से माने व्यस्त रहिथिले देखो पले wrapped in माने अतिशय व्यस्त रहबा excessively busy in one's profession तेणु से माने परस्पर निज प्रोफेशन रे व्यस्त थिले दैट इज व्हाई इवन दो दे वांटेड दे वर नॉट एबल टू मीट ईच अदर सो ऑकेजनली ऑन ए संडे ने केबे केबे रविवार दिन गोपाल would walk into the consulting room and wait patiently in a corner till the doctor was free एवं केबे केबे रविवार दिन समय बाहर करी गोपाल बिकॉज द डॉक्टर इज ऑलवेज बिजी इज 24 आवर्स ड्यूटी ए डॉक्टर is busy for 24 into 7 that's why he never gets time to meet with his friends relatives right Gopal would walk into the consulting room समय समय रे पळि आसुथिले consulting room waiting room को चली आसुथिले and wait patiently in a corner till the doctor was free एवं से कॉर्नर रे गोटे कोण रे बसी जाउथिले जेतले पंत डॉक्टर फ्री न होइचंती and then they would dine together रविवार संध्या रे पेशेंट सब गला परे तो they would dine together से माने जानती खाती मिसिकरी खाती से गोटे दिन केतळे केमती and talk of each other's life and activities and they talk about many things whenever two friends together after a long time definitely they would gossip like anything right it was a classic friendship classic means अति उच्च कोटिर देखो पले हमर रामायण वेद राइट एवं भलो भलो बही गुड बुक्स आर क्लासिक तो सेमती क्लासिक माने अति उच्च कोटिर सेमानो फ्रेंडशिप बहुत उच्च कोटिर दे आर लिबरल फ्रेंड्स कोन पले ना जणे जणकर दोष धरिबेनी सी हूँ तुम लिबरालिज्म तो फ्रेंडशिप रे बहुत आवश्यकता लिबरालिज्म उदारता जदि आम स्वाभिमान करिया फ्रेंडशिप रहिबनी आमर अनेकंकर फ्रेंडशिप कटि जाए कारण आम स्वाभिमानी रहू सी हसिलानी मु कहीं हसि सी कथाओनी मु कहीं कथा हेबी ये सब जिनस आसे पे फ्रेंडशिप रे से बंधुत्वर गाढ़ता कमी जाए यू विल हैव टू बी वेरी मच लिबरल फॉर ए फ्रेंडशिप यू विल हैव टू कॉम्प्रोमाइज जेतल पंत कॉम्प्रोमाइज है ना फ्रेंडशिप केबे भी दृढ़ हब नाही। तो इट वाज ए क्लासिक फ्रेंडशिप स्टैंडिंग ओवर अनटच्ड बाय चेंजिंग टाइम्स। तो स्टैंडिंग ओवर बहुत दिन धरी से रही अनटच्ड बाय चेंजिंग टाइम्स, समय अनेक परिवर्तन सत्वे सर्कमस्टेंसेस एंड एक्टिविटीज, परिस्थिति एवं कार्य समय अनेक परिवर्तन सत्वे से बंधुत्व अतुट थिला, है ना। अतुट, अतुट माने जहाँ तुटी पारिबन, राइट। तो इन हिज बिजी राउंड ऑफ वर्क, in his busy round of work, round it is a coding word of the doctor. In his busy round of work, Dr. Raman had not noticed that Gopal had not called in for over 3 months now, because the doctor was so busy that he could not even remember that his friend Gopal was there, and he had not met him for last 3 months. He just remembered it when he saw Gopal's son sitting on a bench in the consulting hall. किंतु ए भितर 3 मास बीतीगलानी सहित देखाइनी। एंड ही स्पॉटेड गोपाल सन इन हिज कंसल्टिंग रूम। हठात जिते राउंड रे अच्छा डॉक्टर से गोपाल को देखिले, गोपाल पुओ को देखिले कंसल्टिंग रूम में बस। वन क्राउडेड मॉर्निंग, गोटे दिन गहलीपूर्ण गहली होता कंसल्टिंग रूम में से देखिले, बट ही कुड नॉट टॉक बिकॉज ही वाज विजिटिंग द पेशेंट्स। Dr. Raman could not talk to him for over an hour. से घंटाए पर्यंत देखी किंतु से विश भी कर पार because he was then quite busy in serving his patients. When he got up and was about to pass on to the operation room, जो डॉक्टर रोगी देखी सारी ऑपरेशन रूम को बाहर ले जावाकू, he called up the young man and asked, "What brings you here, sir?" गोटे थट्टारे सांगर पुओ तो थट्टारे कहले, महेश कुआडे आसिल? द यूथ वाज नर्वस एंड साय। से टिके व्यस्त हो पड़ला एवं लाजेला। मदर सेंट मी हियर, माँ मते पठै छथि। व्हाट कैन आई डू फॉर यू? कौन मु तोर सेवा करि परिबी? माय फादर इज इल, मो बाबा बहुत असुस्थ अछंती। दिस इज यूनिट 2, राइट। Now you come to unit 3. It's a very interesting story, and definitely you must have taken interest. You see, this is the kind of story. What will come next? What will come next? This is the secret of the story. The story can only be interesting when there is a suspense ahead, and the suspense is increasing now. You see, unit 3. Do you know skillful doctors are always calm even in adverse situations? It is a very ordinary. Whomever you see, if he is a doctor, he is calm inside and outside, even in a very adverse situations, because they are trained that way. They have lived a life among the patients. That's why they have grown with calmness. Do you know skillful doctors, daksha doctors are always calm even in adverse conditions? You see, in our whole life, we may see 20, 25, 30 dead bodies, but they daily see them. That's why they have been conditioned even in the adverse situations. They face the patients, they face the attendants of the patients who recently died. So they have grown with that attitude. How do you think Dr. Raman would have reacted when he saw his friend? And they never reacted. The doctors never reacted. You see, if the patient is recovered, no doubt the doctor is happy. If the patient dies, the doctor have no reaction. Normally they have no reaction. Why? They have been acquainted. They have been accustomed with the pains of the attendants. That is why they have to become, if they feel pity to the patient who dies, they cannot see other patients at the same level of persistence. से धैर्य आउ अन्य पेशेंट को देखी पारे जदियो patient मरी जाउची, I am sorry. बस the topic ended there. And we'll go for another patient to give a life. So do you know skillful doctors are always calm even in adverse situations? How do you think Dr. Raman would have reacted when he saw his friend? Read the following unit of the text and observe how a smart Dr. Raman was in making the diagnosis and treating his patient. So do you know skillful doctors are always calm even in adverse माने विपरीत परिस्थिति, adverse situations. विपरीत परिस्थिति रे तमे जानो कि जे डॉक्टर माने केते काम रहंती. How do you think Dr. Raman would have reacted? बर्तन तमे केमिति बर्तन करछो जदि समाने अन्य समय रे काम रहउछंती ताले तांको बंधु को पाखरे तांको रिएक्शन कोन डेफिनेटली he should have been calm again but one cannot be his sentiment cannot have duality. If I am sorry for you, I will also be sorry for others who are taking pain or who are in a miserable condition. What would be your reaction? Definitely we are coming contact with a doctor who is straightforward, who never tells a lie, who whenever he thinks he is right, he will never leave anything to cure the patient. Read the following unit of the text and observe how smart Dr. Raman was in making the diagnosis and treating his patient. तो आमे बर्तन देखिया जाउची एई यूनिट रे जे ऑब्जर्व हाउ स्मार्ट डॉक्टर रमन जे केते स्मार्टली तांको बंधु को से ट्रीट करछन. नॉर्मली इट इज रादर टफ फॉर ए डॉक्टर टू visit or to treat his relatives and friends. After all, they are human beings. Where there is no association of emotions, they can treat well. But if he is or she is a wife, he is a brother, he is a father, the doctor is not able to treat. Why? Because they are kinly related, they are blood related, and the doctor feels nervous. If he is a friend, they are definitely feeling nervous because the love is attached to them. So Dr. Raman was in making the diagnosis and treating his patient. से केमती diagnose कले एवं ए डॉक्टर को पर्सनालिटी कौन. तो it was an operation day and he was not free till there in the afternoon. That day was an operational day. से दिनों the doctors have a schedule for a week. They normally keep 2 days or 3 days for any operation, right? And they will, and that day mostly they do not watch much patients. Only the urgent needy patients are to be observed by the doctor. Otherwise they no, because they will have to take care for the operations. So it was an operational day and was not free till 3 in the afternoon. The doctors have 3 duties. Number 1, they should watch the patients, they should treat the patients in their consulting room, but they visit them. Number 2 is that those are joined in the indoors, they will have to watch every day. जोटा कि आमे कहूचे राउंड रे डॉक्टर कौन करछन ना राउंड रे अछि माने पेशेंट देखुछथि, इंडोर पेशेंट देखुछथि. गोटे होची आउटडोर पेशेंट्स जोटा कि तांका कंसल्टिंग रूम रे रहउची. आउट होची इंडोर पेशेंट जो मानक ऑपरेशन हेची बा जो माने हॉस्पिटल रे इंडोर रे जॉइन हेचंती तांको प्रत्येक दिन तांको अटेंड करिया पड़ुछ है ना. तो इसी it was an operation day and he was not free till 3 in the afternoon. 3टा पर्यंत से फ्री नथिले. He rushed off straight from the clinic to his friend's house. तापर से सीधा चली गले. तांको rushed up माने सौळ चली जबा, तरबर होई के जबा. From the clinic to his friend's house in lolly extension. Gopal lay in bed as if in sleep. Lolly extension, say gully. Lolly extension is a street, lane. Gopal lay in bed as if in sleep. Gopal ଖଟରେ ପଡ଼ିଥିଲା ସତେ ଏମିତି ସେ ଶୋଇ ପଡ଼ିଛି ହଲଚଲ ହେଉନି. The doctor stood over him and asked Gopal's wife, how long has he been in bed? ତାଙ୍କ ପାଖରେ ଠିଆ ହେଲେ ଏବଂ ତାଙ୍କ ସ୍ତ୍ରୀଙ୍କୁ ପଚାରିଲେ କେତେ ଦିନ ହେଲା ସେ ଶୋଇଛନ୍ତି ବେଡ୍ରେ, କେତେ ଦିନ ହେଲା ପୀଡ଼ିତ ଅଛନ୍ତି. A month and a half, doctor. It is almost a month and a half. ଦେଢ଼ ମାସ ହେଲା ସେ ଏଇ ଅବସ୍ଥାରେ ଅଛନ୍ତି. Who is attending him? ତାଙ୍କୁ କିଏ ଦେଖୁଛନ୍ତି? You see, it is the doctor's feeling. They are bosom friends, but Gopal did not visit to him for his illness. It is a subtle reaction in the doctor. You see how he adjusts. A doctor in the next street, he comes down once in 3 days and gives him medicine. ଆଉ ସ୍ତ୍ରୀ କହିଲେ ଦେଖନ୍ତୁ ଗୋଟେ ଆର ସାହିରେ ଥିବା ଡକ୍ଟର ଦେଖୁଛନ୍ତି ସେ 3 ଦିନରେ ଥରେ ଆସୁଛନ୍ତି ଏବଂ ମେଡିସିନ ଦେଇ ଯାଉଛନ୍ତି. What is his name? He had never heard of him. Someone I don't know, but I wish he had the goodness to tell me about it. Why? Why could not you have sent me word earlier? ଯେତେବେଳେ ନାଁଟା କହିଲେ ମିସେସ୍ ତାଙ୍କର ସେ କହିଲେ ମୁଁ ତ କାହିଁ ଏମିତି ଡକ୍ଟରଙ୍କୁ ଜାଣିନି ହେଇଥିବ ହେଲେ ବି ତ I am popular in the village. He could have sent me a message. ଏଇଟା ତାଙ୍କର ଉଦାରତା ଥିଲା because everybody knew that Gopal is my friend. So at least ସେ ଡକ୍ଟର ବି ମୋତେ ଇନଫର୍ମ କରିବାର ଥିଲା ପୁଣି ତମେ ବି କରିବାର ଥିଲା. Why could not you have sent me word earlier? ମୋତେ କାହିଁକି ଆଗରୁ ଜଣେଇଲଣି? You see the same case. To an ordinary patient, if it is delayed, the doctor burst out. That why could not have you come earlier, a day earlier? Here you also same speech. Right? So you could have sent me word earlier. ତମେ ମୋତେ ଆଗରୁ ଖବର ପଠେଇ ପାରିଥାନ୍ତ. We thought you would be busy and did not wish to trouble you unnecessarily. ଆମେ ଭାବିଲୁ ଯେ ତମେ ବ୍ୟସ୍ତ ଥିବ ଆଉ ମୁଁ କାହିଁକି unnecessary disturb କରି. You see here also the patients are lying. It is the first, whether you pay it or not doesn't matter, but the first psychology of the patient is that they could cure themselves. ଘରେ ଆମର ବେଶୀ ଡାକ୍ତର ଥାନ୍ତି ନା. ଗୋଟେ ପ୍ରବାଦ ଅଛି ଓଡ଼ିଆରେ ଯେ ଆଜିର ରୋଗୀ କାଲିର ବୈଦ୍ୟ. ନା ଆମେ ବି ଅନେକ ମେଡିସିନ ଜାଣିଛ ଡାକ୍ତର ପାଖକୁ କାହିଁକି ଯିବା ଆବଶ୍ୟକ ନଥିଲେ. ତ ସେଇ ପରିବାର ସେଇ ବନ୍ଧୁ ପରିବାର ବି ଜାଣିଛନ୍ତି that doctor is always busy. Why should he take pain? Normally intimate friends never give any burden to their friends. Perhaps that is happened here. We thought you would be busy and did not wish to trouble you unnecessarily. They were apologetic and miserable. ସେମାନେ ବଡ଼ ଅସହାୟ ଜଣା ପଡ଼ୁଥିଲେ କାରଣ ଡକ୍ଟର ଜାଣୁଥିଲେ this is a comforting lie. ତ ଡକ୍ଟରଙ୍କୁ ବୁଝିବାକୁ ଯାଇ କହୁଥିଲେ ନାଇଁ ଆପଣ ବ୍ୟସ୍ତ ଥିବେ ମୁଁ ଆଉ ଆସିପାରିଲିନି. ରାଇଟ୍? ତ they were apologetic and miserable. ସେମାନେ କ୍ଷମା ପ୍ରାର୍ଥନା କରୁଥିଲେ ବଡ଼ ଅସହାୟ ଲାଗୁଥିଲେ because it is 1.5 months that Gopal was lying on the bed. There was hardly any time to be lost. ଆଉ ସମୟ ବର୍ବାଦ କରିବାର ଅବସର ନଥିଲା. He took off his coat and opened his bag. ସେ ନିଜ କୋଟ୍ ବାହାର କଲେ ଆପ୍ରନ୍ ବାହାର କଲେ ଏବଂ and opened his bag ଏବଂ ତାଙ୍କ ବ୍ୟାଗ୍ ଖୋଲିଲେ. Doctor's bag ଗୋଟେ ରହିଛି ଖୋଲେ. He took out an injection tube. The needle sizzled over the stove. The sick man's wife whimpered in a corner and essayed to ask questions. Please don't ask questions, snapped the doctor. He took out an injection tube. ବାହାର କଲେ injection tube ବାହାର କଲେ. The needle sizzled over the stove. So it is a very old tradition. ତ କାଚର ସିରିଞ୍ଜ ଥିଲା ତାକୁ ପ୍ରତ୍ୟେକ ପେସେଣ୍ଟକୁ ଦେଲା ବେଳେ ପାଣିରେ ଫୁଟେଇବାକୁ ପଡ଼ୁଥିଲା ତାକୁ ପୁଣି ଝାଡ଼ିକିରି ଡ୍ରାଏ କରିବାକୁ ପଡ଼ୁଥିଲା. ନିଡଲ୍କୁ ସିଝା ହେଉଥିଲା ଗରମ ପାଣିରେ ତାକୁ ପୁଣି ଶୁଖା ହେଉଥିଲା ଝାଡ଼ିକିରି ତାପରେ ତାକୁ ଇଞ୍ଜେକ୍ସନ୍ ପ୍ରିପେୟାର କରାହେଉଥିଲା ସେମିତିଆ. ପୁଣି ଇଞ୍ଜେକ୍ସନ୍ ଆଜିକାଲି ଡାଇରେକ୍ଟ ଲିକ୍ୱିଡ଼ ମିଳୁଛି. there is a powder and there is a distilled water bottle, a small bottle. You will have to first of all He will take out the water from the small bottle and inject that into the powdered bottle, right? Then you stir it for some time. Again you squeeze from the bottle into the injection syringe. So you see, he looked at the children who were watching the sterilizer and said, sorry. The sick man's wife whimpered in a corner. Se kone kone dekhutile bhitru gote corner ru, and essayed to ask questions. Ebang essayed khali question upare question pacharle. Please don't ask questions, because the doctor are always serious. They think something in the mind and they work outside. But we cannot just judge what the doctor thinks. And if you talk to them, they will be disturbed. They cannot diagnose well. That's why normally we are told that whenever you go to a doctor, don't speak much. Whatever they ask, you are authorized to speak the answer only. From your side, you cannot talk continuously. Please don't ask questions, snapped the doctor. मझे से interrupt कले कहले मते अजथा क्वेश्चन पचारने जानी छे, because he was wondering something in his mind. He looked at the children who were watching the sterilizer and said, send them all away somewhere except the eldest. तापरे से समस्त को देखले, send them all away. तो छुआ मानक सब लाइन ठिया होइतिले, कना सिरिंज फुटिला बेले सिरिंज झाड़ला डॉक्टर कौन कर छुआ मानकर बड़ आग्रह, तेणु से कहले समस्त को बाहर कर रूम रू, केवल बड़टा रहा, सेंड देम ऑल अवे समवेयर एक्सेप्ट द एल्डेस्ट, बड़टा रखिए बाकी सब ये रूम रू जातु. He shut in the drug, sat back in his chair and gazed on the patient's face for over an hour. एवं घंटाए काल तांको मुह को देखले से कौन, he shut the drug in the drug, sat back in his chair. इंजेक्शन टा दे देले, दे बसिले. The patient still remained motionless. एवं पेशेंट पूरापूरी मोशनलेस रहा, मोशनलेस निश्चल, शरीर जमा हलचल हो निश्चल रहा, घंटाए काल तांको मुह को देखुं. The doctor's face gleamed with perspiration. Gleamed with perspiration माने घर्माक्त झाड़ रे पूरा भरी गला. Because the patient, perhaps the doctor thought something else, and his eyelids drooped with fatigue. And fatigue means excess tired, extremely tired. His eyelids drooped with fatigue. एवं तांका आँखी इंदे पड़ी जाउथला, है ना? He was feeling very much tired. The whole day he was working, and the afternoon was almost he had with the operation. That's why from morning till 3 o'clock he was tired. He was working hard. That's why he feels very much tired. And above all, his patient's condition, his friend's condition was worse. That's why perhaps he thought something beyond of his expectations. She asked timidly, Doctor, shall I make some coffee for you? जानीदेले तांको स्त्री पचारे मुठी कॉफी करी कि आपण पाए. No, he replied, although he felt famished. Famished माने अति भोक, प्रबल भोक होगा, होचे famished. Although he felt famished, having missed his midday meal. से आ खरा बेले भी खाई ना, जहाँ सकाळे जलखिया करी बाहर थिले, that's all. तेणु जदिओ भोक होता तथा मना कले, because the patient's condition and the home condition was very much worse, right? That's why out of respect he denied to make a cup of coffee for him. He got up and said, I'll be back in a few minutes. ठीक अच्छे मु एइना आसुच. I'll be back in a few minutes. मु एइना एइ संगे संगे आसुच. Don't disturb him on any account. कौनसी मते मते तम पेशेंट को छुईबनी. He picked up his bag and went to his car. In a quarter of an hour, he was back. He picked up his bag. से बैग धरले, संगे संगे कार पाको चलले एवं चलले. Within 15 minutes, he came with a doctor, followed by an assistant and a nurse. गोटे डॉक्टर एवं गोटे नर्स को धरिक आसले. The doctor told the lady of the house, I have to perform an operation. से कहले मते गोटे ऑपरेशन तुरंत करिया पड़िबो. Why? सी आस्क्ड फेंटली। 1.5 मास हेलानी तांको स्वामी शोइचंती जेतले कहले ऑपरेशन, इट वाज ए वेरी ट्रेडिशनल स्टोरी एंड सेतले ऑपरेशन कहले बहुत भयंकर योजना थिला, लोक मानक मन रे अलगा प्रकार धारणा थिला। दैट इज व्हाई ही ऑलमोस्ट फेंटेड व्हेन he listened the word operation. I'll tell you all that soon. ठीक अच्छे मैं तुमको सांगे सांगे परे कहबी। Will you leave your son here to help us and go over to the next house and stay there till I call you? तो I'll tell you all that soon. मैं परे कहबी तुम एबे किछ कहि परिबिनी। Will you leave your son here to help us? तमे तुम पो गोटी छाड़ी दितो सेटा हम सहाय्य करबी and go over to the next house एवं तमे आरो रूम को चली जाओ and stay there till I call you. एवं सेतेले पर्यंत आसीबनी जेतेले पर्यंत म तुमको न डाकिछि। The lady felt giddy and sank down on the floor. से भावुक हो गले एवं कौन कले sank down on the floor. आस्ते आस्ते से एते दुर्बल अनुभव ऑटोमेटिक बसी पड़े। हठात मुंड काम करिवनी, दुर्बल लागिवो, हठात बसी पड़िवो, ठिया ही पारे, मुंह बुलेबो, मुंड बुलेब, हठात गोटे न्यूज पाइले सेमतिया साधारणतः हुए। दोज आर वीक माइंड, दुर्बल मना लोक मानकर ए रकम अवस्था हुए। अनेबल टू बियर द स्ट्रेन, एते बड़ जिनसटा हठात शुणीदेवार धैर्य नथिला, से लथ कर सैंक डाउन ऑन द फ्लोर, माने लथ किने बसी पड़ले। द नर्स अटेंडेड टू हर एंड लेड हर आउट। तेणु नर्स पाखक गले एवं ताको से रूम रू बाहर कर देले। फिर वी हैव कंप्लीटेड यूनिट 3 and we will start for unit 4 and unit 5, unit 6. Next 3 chapters will be taught to you the next day. Okay, thank you.